Okay, in this video I'm going to I printed off a sheet for a lot of us to use in class as we are working with surface area. It just kind of explains exactly what we need and kind of forces us a little bit to put it down on paper. That way we don't lose track of where our numbers are and all of that good stuff. So if you're watching this video, you have this little worksheet that can help you fix your grade in class. So this video is to help you go over that. Maybe check some of your answers with it. Okay, so I hopefully explained to you already that you don't need your answers on this page. I want your answers on the other page because the other page sets it up so you'll find total and lateral surface area. Okay. There are a few things that we need to annotate on this page first. On number 2, this says 6.1, and that's talking about the side length of this side and this side. In number 1, this is the base. I forgot to shade it in. That's the base of that rectangular prism. In number 6, this is about 7 inches, so I just want you to see 7 inches there. In number 8, this is kind of like number 2. That should say 7.21, and again, it goes for both of the slanted sides in the triangle. And then in number 9, this edge here is 4 feet. Let's go ahead and get started with number 1. We're going to put all of our work on this page. The first step that we've got to do is just redraw the base. And when we redraw the base of the 3D figure that we're working with, we want to kind of draw it as we see it on the page. That way it's easy for us to label things. So if I draw this rectangle, it's kind of slanted a little bit. Now the front edge is 12. And because this is a rectangle, I know the back edge there is also 12. It's tempting to say that this side is 6 because the number we see on the left is 6. But 6 goes from the bottom to the top, not from the front to the back, which is where that edge is going. The length that goes from the front to the back, or along that edge, is actually 7. So this rectangle is 12 by 7. Okay, and it's poorly drawn because I'm not a super great artist, but those are all right angles because this is a rectangle. It's important to remember that the capital letters that we use in the formula, capital P and capital B, are all talking about the perimeter or the area of the base. The capital letters have to come from the shape of the base. For perimeter, you guys remember to just add all your sides together. For area, we're working with rectangular prisms and triangular prisms, so there's only 2 different things we could do here. To find the area of a rectangular base, you multiply the base and the height of the base. And then to find the area of a triangular base, the formula you use is 1/2 BH. And that's just because the area of a rectangle is BH. The formula for the area of a triangle is 1/2 BH. So when I find big P for number 1, I'm just adding all of the sides from the base. So that's 7 plus 12, 7 plus 12, plus another 7, plus another 12. 7 plus 12 is 19, and 19 and 19 make 38, or you can grab a calculator and double check that. The next box I need to fill in says to find capital B, which stands for area of the base. Our base is a rectangle for number 1. If I have a rectangular base, I use the formula BH. I want to find the area of this shape, which is a rectangle. To find the area of any rectangle, you use the base times the height. Using B times H, which is just the 2 numbers that make a 90-degree angle. And you can see the 90-degree angle right there. The 2 numbers that outline that are the 12 and 7. So BH is 12 times 7. 12 times 7 is, you can pause the video and calculate that, 12 times 7 is 84. So we've found capital P and capital B. Little h stands for the height of the prism. This is what connects the two bases together. Connects the bases. So I'm not going to find the little h, the value of little h, by looking at just the base. We have to look at the actual 3D prism to see how far apart the two bases are. Remember, the bases of prisms are just the two congruent shapes that are parallel from each other. The height is whatever length connects those two bases. So from the top to the bottom in this case. Those lengths are the height, and that is 6 yards. So h is 6 for number 1. After we have capital P, capital B, and little h, then you can just start using the formulas for surface area. The lateral surface area formula just says take whatever P is and multiply it by whatever h is. We said that the perimeter of the base was 38. So instead of P, I wrote 38. Then I multiply that by, instead of h, since the height of the prism in number 1 was 6, instead of h, I can write 6. And 38 times 6, you can get a calculator out. 38 times 6 would be 180 and 24, so 104. This is an area. Since an area, that's a 2D space, so our yards are squared. We're measuring 2D space, so the yards are squared. And we have the total surface area formula. The total surface area formula is take whatever P is, multiply it by whatever H is, and then add twice whatever big B is. Or we'll have 38 instead of big P, because the perimeter of the base was 38, times 6, the height of the 3D shape, plus 2 times whatever the area of the base was. The area of the base in number 1 was 84. And then I'll show you how I would type this in the calculator, and I'll also show you how most 8th graders are typing this in the calculator this year. It seems like most 8th graders are actually using, they're going to type in 38 times 6, and I multiplied that wrong. And then 2 times 84. And then they're adding those two products together. It's been a very long day, and I guess I can't multiply today in my head. That makes sense. 6 times 30 is 180 plus 24, so that would be... I'm going to pause this video and think about my life real hard. I have unpaused the video. 6 times 8 is definitely 48, so we've got 30 times 6, 180, and then 6 times 8, 48. So when we add that together, you do get 248. Oh, dear guys. Okay. That was how we found the lateral and total surface area for number 1. Let's go ahead and look at another problem. And let's go with number 2. Let's go with what's next. Number 2 has a triangle in it. And if we've got a triangle, we need to see if this is a triangular prism. So is there another triangle that's the exact same triangle that's parallel to that? I have 2 identical triangles, and they are parallel, which means this is a triangular prism. So let's redraw that triangular base, so the triangle has to be the base. This is a pretty standard, normal-looking triangle. So drawn that normal-looking triangle. Now I want to label it, and I want to label it correctly. So I'm going to look at both of these papers at the same time. The bottom horizontal side is labeled with a 7. We said that the slanted sides were both 6.1. And then the height on the inside of the triangle is labeled with a 5. And we know that's a height because it's making that 90-degree angle with 7. So 7 and 5 are the base and height. Okay. The first thing we want to find is capital P. Capital P is found by adding all of the sides. I used an example in class that if I put a perimeter around the edge of my property, if I put a fence around the perimeter of my property, then we won't find fence inside of my kitchen because perimeter means the outside edges. So we're adding the 6.1s and the 7, but because the 5 is on the inside, it's not actually part of the perimeter. We'll have 6.1 plus 6.1 plus 7. 6.1 plus 6.1 plus 7 is 19.2. And that's capital P, or the perimeter of the triangular base, the perimeter of the base. The next letter we need to look for is capital B. Capital B stands for area of the base. Number 2, the area is a triangle. So we'll use the formula half BH. Half BH. Remember, B and H are the two numbers that outline the 90-degree angle. That's the 90-degree angle. The two numbers that outline it are 7 and 5. So 1/2 BH is really half times 7 times 5. Half of 35. Remember to type a fraction, and we've got alpha y equals, and that's 1/2 times 7 times 5. If you're using that fraction method, that's fantastic. You guys usually prefer to multiply with decimals, and it's more common when we talk about area and volume to use decimals than fractions. On your calculator, you can change a fraction to a decimal by actually dividing, or we can hit the math button, and then when we want to change something to a fraction, we select number 1. When we want to change something to a decimal, we select number 2. So 17.5 is big B. H is the next box we need to fill in, and that comes from the prism's height. So we actually look at the 3D figure, and the line that connects one triangle to the other triangle, how far apart the bases are, that's the height. So the height of this prism is 13 centimeters. H is 13. Now we're all set. We've got big P, big B, and H, which means we can find the total and lateral surface areas. We start with the lateral surface area because knowing pH can actually help us with the total surface area. P is 19.2, perimeter of the base 19.2, times height of the prism, little h is 13. You can take your 19.2 and multiply it by 13. The product is 249.6, 249 6. Again, this is an area. Both sides are measured in centimeters, so centimeters squared. P times H plus 2 times big B is the formula for total surface area. And a lot of us have recognized in class, we're starting to get pretty savvy. P times H we've already found. So we can just write that number down. This is what most of you guys do in class. 249.6. And then you can do plus 2 times whatever big B was. in this case 17.5. I now realize that when I was finding the total surface area for number 1, I forgot to show you both methods, the way you guys prefer. It seems like most 8th graders this year are preferring to type in each individual part and then add them together. That's okay. You could do 249.6. You can say 2 times 17.5. And then you could just add those together. That's 284.6. 284.6 centimeters squared, because this is area. 2d6. The way I would type this in would be all of that on one line. So even if I was using 19.2 times 13 instead of the product I already know I had, I'd have 19.2 times 13 plus sign 2 times 17.5. We saw at the beginning of the year that our calculator does follow order of operations, so your calculator will multiply the two products first and then add them together. So feel free to just type in the entire line. Now let's look for the next question, number 3. The shape in number 3 is a cube. A cube is just a prism with a square base, or we can call it a rectangular prism. It's just a very special rectangular prism. Number 3, we've got a square base, or just a rectangle, and all of the sides in that square are 3. Likewise, I know all the angles are right angles. There we go. To find capital P, you just add all of the sides. So all 4 sides added together, we need 4 numbers added together. We'd have 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3. I encourage you to pause the video and add that on your own real quick. When you added that together, you got that the perimeter of the base is 12. 12 feet. Next, we've got area of the base. This is a square, which is just a special type of rectangle. It's certainly not a triangle. The formula that we use is area of the base, big B, can be found by taking 2 numbers that form a right angle together. 3 and 3 form a right angle in a square. So capital BH is 3 times 3. Sorry, capital B, which equals BH, is 3 times 3. Pause the video and try to do that one on your own. Capital B is 9. The next part of this says we need to find the prism's height. If you looked at the shape, remember it's a cube, which means every edge is the same length. So hopefully it's obvious. The height here is 3 feet. Okay. So the lateral surface area is the formula P times H. Capital P, the perimeter of the base, was 12 times H was 3. Pause the video real quick and try to do that on your own, or use a calculator. And now we get that the lateral surface area is 36. That would be feet squared. Now we're going to find the total surface area. That's using the formula P times H plus 2 times big B. P times H would be 12 times 3 plus sign 2 times big B is 9. Pause the video and try to calculate that. Just try this on your own real quick. 12 times 3, 12 times 3 plus 2 times 9, you get 54. 54 feet squared. And that's for the total surface area. Okay. You'll notice off to the side we were talking about the prism, and we're talking about the perimeter and the area of the base, capital P is being used. If you look at your page, I'll go over 4 and 7 towards the end of the video. But this 4 up here is not going to match problem number 4. It's really going to match problem number 5. And if that's going to bug you, you can go ahead and cross that out. Problem number 5, we have another cube, but this time the base has a square that is 6 inches on each side. So we'll draw a square with 6 inches on each side. We know that the angles in square are all right angles, and like that too. The first box that we try to fill out is for the perimeter of the base. This is a square, so we've got 4 numbers we've got to add together. Go ahead and pause the video and see if you can't write out an addition problem that will sum to the perimeter of the base. The 4 numbers that you're adding are all 6 because each side of the square is 6 and there are 4 sides. Some of you might have said 4 times 6. Those are the same, or 6 times 4. And that gives us a perimeter of 24 inches. Here we have a square. So think about which formula we should be using to find the area. Big B stands for area of this shape. You want to use capital B is B times H. Remember, B and H are just numbers that make a 90-degree angle. Pause the video and see if you can't come up with what numbers you can replace B and H with. Okay, so you can replace B and H, both with 6 actually, and the product of 6 and 6, or 6 squared, makes a square, is 36. So we know capital B is 36 inches squared. H stands for the prism height. So looking at our original piece of paper with all the columns, remember the prism height is just the line that connects the 2 bases together. Pause the video and see if you can't figure out what the height of this cube is. Hopefully you see that the length 6 connects your bottom base to the top base. So little h is 6. That is 6 inches. Okay. Next, we're all set to start using the formula for lateral and total surface area. Okay, so the lateral surface area is just P times H. So you need one number times another number. These numbers come from the 3 letters that we set ourselves up with. In class, we just made a list of those letters. Here we have the letters in a box. Try to pause the video and see if you can't determine which numbers are going in those blanks. Alright, you should have picked 24 for capital P and 6 for lowercase h. That's the perimeter of the base and the height of the prism. 24 times 6 is the same as 6 times 24, so it doesn't matter which way you multiply them. I need you guys to see, though, that 24 is for P and 6 is for H. That's where those numbers are coming from. And then 24 times 6, since I've proven to myself that I'm not to be trusted today. Let's see, I can't even type it right. There we go, 24 times 6. There we go. And that would be inches squared. This is 2D space. That makes sense. We've got, that would be 20 plus 4 times 6. That's 120. That's 24. When you add those two numbers, you do get 144. So that does make sense. All right. Now we've found lateral total surface area. We can start finding the total surface area. Total surface area is found with P times H plus 2 times big B. You need P, capital P times, H that's not a number, plus 2 times capital B. Pause the video and see if you can't figure out what numbers should go in those blanks. In the blanks, for the first blank we'll have is P, so that's 24. The second blank is in place of H, which is 6. And the last blank is in place of big B, which is 36. 36. And now we've got 24 times 6 plus 2 times 36. Most of you seem to prefer saying 24 times 6 is 144, plus 2 times 36 is 72, and then adding 144 plus 72 is 216. This is 2D space because it's area, so this is inches squared. I would really encourage you to pause the video and see if you can't set some of the other questions up. The remaining questions, 6, 8, and 9, are triangular prisms, so I would look at what you have written down for example number 2. The rest of this video I will go through and work those problems out. I will start doing that now. Now I will start doing that. Okay. We've got number 6, 8, and 9 that we want to finish here. Okay. So looking at number 6, I see that the triangular bases are, I've got 2 triangles, they're parallel. They're congruent, so those are my 2 bases, and that means this is a triangular prism. I'm going to try to redraw the base as close as I can to that. Notice I'm not just going to draw any triangle because this triangle and that one don't look like each other at all. In class, most of you said that this looks like an upside down Dorito. I think it looks like a V with a bar over it. Either way is fine. And there was a right angle marking that's really hard to see now because I colored my triangle in. The right angle marking is in the bottom corner, so I'm just going to mark that. Now we'll label the triangle edges as best as we can to be accurate. So the slanted sides of the triangle are both 5. And the horizontal side is 7. Since this is a right triangle, hopefully you guys can see 5 and 5 are the legs, and about 7 is the hypotenuse. It's not really equal to 7, but that's okay. Perimeter means to add all the sides, and this is a triangle, so you're going to have 3 sides that have to be added together. See if you can't figure out what the 3 side lengths are. So you should have got 5 plus 5 plus 7, as long as those are the 3 numbers you have in the blanks. It doesn't matter which order you're adding in. 5, 5, and 7, the sum of those 3 numbers is 17. Capital P is 17. Now capital B. On our other page we had this written down. The formula for the area of a rectangle is the 2 numbers multiplied together that form the 90-degree angle. For a triangle, we get that same exact formula, except for we multiply it by half. Remember, that's because if I have a rectangle and I cut it in half diagonally, I can get the triangle. That's where that formula comes from. Well, we've got a triangle here, so we want to use 1/2 BH. So now I need to know what are the 2 numbers that make the 90-degree angle. That would be this side and this side, or 5 and 5. So we've got 1/2 times 5 times 5, half of $25. We've got 5 times 5, and we want half of that. Multiplying by a half is the same as cutting it into 2 pieces or dividing it by 2. Got 12 and a half. And that's for big D. H is the prism height. This shape we redrew is the base, so we don't look at the base. Take out the old paper. The length that connects the 2 triangular bases is the height of the prism. And that is 10 inches long. So H is 10 inches. Now that we have capital P, capital D, and H, we all set to find the total and lateral surface areas. P times H. P is 17. Little h is 10. 17 times 10, or 10 times 17, is 170 inches squared, because this is a surface area. Notice perimeter is measured in inches. Height is measured in inches. Inches times inches is inches times itself, or inches times itself 2 times. There we go. So inches squared. Next we've got the total surface area, P times H, plus 2 times 50. Pause the video and see if you can't fill in the numbers. P would be 17 times H, 10, plus 2 times 50, 12.5. You can use your calculator. 17 times 10, 170. 2 times 12.5, 25. When we add that together, we get a sum of 195 for the total surface area. Area is 2D space, so this is inches squared. Looking at number 8. Number 8, again, I have some triangular bases. I'm going to try to draw that triangle as best as I can. It's a pretty normal looking triangle. The bottom edge is 8, and there's a line through the middle of the triangle with a right angle marking, which means that's the height. They've labeled at 6, and the slanted sides are about 7.21. This is all measured in yards. I would pause the video and see if you can't find big P and big D on your own. I'll look through it so you can check to see if you've got the right answers, but I'd encourage you to pause the video and try to find those on your own. Okay. P is when we add all of the sides from the triangle together. Remember, perimeter is the outside edges, though, not the inside. So we've added 7.21, 7.21, and 8. 7.21 plus 7.21 plus 8. 7.21 plus 7.21 plus 8. The 3 outside edges of the triangle summed together is 22.42. That's yards. Area of the base. Well, our base is a triangle. So the formula we're going to use is 1/2 BH. 1/2 times the 2 numbers that make a 90-degree angle. The 90-degree angle is right here. 6 and 8. I think half of 6 is easier in my head, so I'm going to go with half of 6 times 8. Half of 6 is 3. 3 times 8 is 24. You can verify that on your calculator in several ways. We've got half of 6 times 8, or 24. This is an area, 2D space, yards squared. Now we take back the original piece of paper to look at the prism, because H, little h stands for height of the prism. Number 8. So the front triangle is one of the bases, the matching base, the matching triangle. Parallel to that, this is that triangle. You can see the length that connects them goes from front to back. And that is 14 yards. So little h has a value of 14. Okay. Now that we have the three variables that are used in each of those formulas, we're ready to find out what the lateral and total surface areas are equal to. P times H, I would encourage you definitely to pause the video now that you know what PB and H are. If you can't get the correct values for that on P times H is 22.42 to substitute in for P, times H is 14. 22.42, 22 and 42 hundredths, times H, or 14. 313 and 88 hundredths. 313.8. This is measuring 2D space, so that's yards squared. The first part of the formula is the same, so that's 22.42 times 14 plus 2 times big B is 24. The area of the base is 24. We've got 22.42 times 14, or 313.88, plus 2 times 24, or 48. Added together, it's 361 and 88 hundredths. 361.88. This is still just measuring the area of every edge, including the bases, including the two bases. So we're still dealing with yards squared. Last problem is super lengthy video. Number 9. Number 9 is kind of like the triangle we had in number 7. You guys, overall 8th graders in class, are saying this is an upside down Dorito. And we can see that the angle marking is on the bottom corner. I'm just going to color in the bases. Oh, I forgot to label the sides. Okay, and remember the sides that are touching the right angle are called the legs. That is 3 by 3. These sides are all measured in feet. And that makes the length across the right angle, or the hypotenuse, is really close to 4 feet. So we're just going to pretend it's 4. Alright. Pause the video and see if you can't get numbers for capital P, capital B, and lowercase h for yourself. Remember that lowercase h comes from the prism and not the triangular base. Hopefully you've paused the video and have found your own values for P, B, and H, and now you can just check yourself to make sure that you're understanding. Capital P is the perimeter of the base, so you're just adding the 3 outside edges. That is 3 plus 4 plus 3, or 10 feet for P. Capital B, you need the two numbers that create the right angle. And most of the time you can pick out that you have to multiply those. Remember though that this is a triangle. And to go from a rectangle, multiplying those numbers, to a triangle, you have to cut this in half. So the formula is half times those numbers, or 1/2 times 3 times 3, or 4.5. That would be feet squared for capital B. Because capital B measures the area of a 2D shape, the space it takes up, the feet are squared. 3 feet times 3 feet, feet squared. And then the height, I hope you remembered to look at the prism from the original page, not the triangle that we drew. Little h measures how long the edge is from one base to the other base, or how far apart the two bases are. So from one base to the other, it looks like that length is 6 feet long. Little h is 6 feet long. I'd encourage you again to pause the video and find the lateral and total surface area on your own. The lateral surface area is P times H, or 10 for the perimeter of the base, times 6 for the height of the prism. 10 times 6 is 60. This is an area, feet squared. Right, feet times feet is feet squared. Now we will try to find the total surface area, or P times H plus 2 times big B. You've got P times H, or 10 times 6, plus 2 times big B, 2 times 4.5. 10 times 6 is 60. 2 times 4.5 is 9, and 60 plus 9 is 69. 60 was measured in feet squared. Big B is feet squared, and 2 doesn't have any units. So this is feet squared. Square feet plus square feet is just more square feet. There we go. That is a lot of surface area problems for rectangular prisms, cubes, and triangular prisms. The only trick we haven't looked at is the surface area formulas for cylinders. Okay. In class, we went over kind of where the formulas come from. So in the video, I'm just going to focus on applying the formulas. For the lateral surface area formula, we've got 2 times pi times r times h. The total surface area formula, 2 times pi times r times h, the lateral surface area, right? That would get us the rectangular part of that when we unfold it. Plus the area of the two bases would be pi r squared, but there's 2 of them, so we have 2 pi r squared. The circumference times the height gets the side covered, and then the circumference times the height plus the area of the two bases would cover the entire cylinder. So from the formula, we see that the radius and the height are missing. Those are the values that we need to fill in before we can find a numeric value for the surface areas. Remember, height is still whatever connects one base to the other. Our bases are 6 millimeters apart in number 4, so h is 6 millimeters. H is 6. We also need to know the radius. Remember, the radius only goes halfway across the circle. This 5 shows going all the way across the circle. So 5 is the longer length. Diameter is the longer word. Diameter is 5. To find the radius, if you know the diameter, you just cut it in half, divide by 2, or multiply by half. R is 2.5. From here, you're ready to use your calculator. This is enough work to show me that you're using 2.5 for R and 6 for H. If it helps, you can cross that out. You don't need D equals pi. If it helps, you probably don't even need to write it down. Okay. Calculator is on. we're typing in the lateral surface area, or 2 times. You can use the pi button or 3.14, doesn't matter. We talked about the difference between using those in class. So 2 times, I'll use 3.14. I think most of you prefer that just because you've practiced that for so many years. And then the radius we have is 2.5, so times 2.5 times the h is 6, the height is 6. So the lateral surface area of the cylinder is 94 and 2/10. 94.2. This is a type of area, so millimeters squared. I'll pause the video and see if you can try to type that in on your own. Challenge yourself a little bit there. Now this is a very lengthy formula, so I understand the desire to split that up. Remember, your calculator will use ordered operations though, so if you prefer, you can type that all in on one line. So we've got 2 times 3.14 times r, 6, times h, sorry, r was 2.5, times h, which is 6, plus, or you could have typed in 94.2, plus 2 times pi, which is 3.14, a good approximation for pi is 3.14, times 2.5. There are 2 ways to square a number on your calculator. The way we prefer is by hitting that caret top key right above the division sign. Now we have an exponent box where we can type in the exponent, which is 2. So the total surface area is 133 and 45 hundredths. 133.45 millimeters squared. So applying these formulas for lateral and total surface area of cylinders is actually a lot easier for us because we just need to know the radius and the height. There's not a whole lot of use in trying to find the circumference and area of the base and then using the height of the cylinder and all of that greatness that we have to do with prisms. I would super encourage you to pause the video and try to look at this cylinder on your own. Or at least write out the formulas and determine what you would plug in instead of using R and H. What would you substitute for R and H when you're typing this in on your own calculator? The 7 that they've given us all the way across the circle, that goes all the way across the circle through the middle, so that's the diameter. We've got 7 millimeters for the diameter. To find the radius, we just cut that in half, 3.5. Remember, the height just connects the 2 bases. Those circles are 10 millimeters apart, so the height of the cylinder is 10. And the formula for lateral surface area of a cylinder, 2 times pi times r, which is the circumference, times the height, 2 pi r h, or 2 times 3.14 times 3.5 times 10. That was a really good approximation. Some of you prefer using the pi button. That's okay. If you want to use the pi button, it's second, and then that caret top key again. 2 times 3.14 times 3.5 times 10. 219 219 and 8/10 millimeters squared for lateral surface area. So total surface area just uses this formula. 2 pi RH plus 2 pi r squared, which is exactly that 219 and 8/10 we have, plus 2 times 3.14 times, instead of r squared, since the radius is 3.5, we can type in a 3.5 squared. So I'll have the 219.8, and I'll just click my plus button. That says take the answer from the previous line. Now we're going to add 2 times 3.14 times 6 centimeters. If you still feel uncomfortable finding surface area of any of these videos, or any part of this video didn't make sense to you, please, please, please come find me so I can help teach that to you a little bit better. Or I can send you links to other videos, or if you need to meet with another teacher, anybody at school will be fine doing, any math teacher at school will be fine doing that for you. Our test is next week though, and this is about half of what's going to be on our test is surface area, so you won't feel very confident taking it, and I just would love for you guys to feel confident, because I know you guys don't like feeling inconfident, how do you say that? Anyways, if I gave you this page, I really want you to go through this. I'd love for you to pause through the video, if you didn't already. Turn the page back into me when you see me next.